Going to start. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to join us today. Appreciate you all coming. Wanted to acknowledge the parents and why we asked you to join as well. Parents a lot of times have input in the college essay, whether it's brainstorming or editing. So we wanted to make sure that we are all on the same page with what the expectation is for the college essay and what you should really be thinking about. Also wanted to say to parents, please resist the urge to write your students' essays for them or even edit it to the point where it is unrecognizable. Admissions officers read thousands upon thousands of essays and they can pick out a parent-read essay so quickly. So even though you think you're writing like your student or your child, it doesn't come across that way. So, so listen up and hear what Ms. Ventilla and I have to say today. So Ms. Ventilla is the English chair and also the senior English teacher. So I will be talking about the first half of this presentation, and then she's going to pick it up from there and really talk about the college essay. So what is the agenda? Talking about the importance of the college essay, especially in today's day and time where our SAT and ACT scores are optional. What are the requirements based on the different applications? Some common myths on the essay and the application itself. The essay persona, which we'll describe. 5 traits that colleges look for. Brainstorming your topic idea, what to come up with, tips for writing your draft, and then some parting thoughts and sort of our plan for what we do moving forward. So I'm going to start with the importance of the college essay. When you apply to a particular college, most of the students who are applying will have a similar academic profile, meaning you'll have a similar GPA, the rigor of your coursework, the APs, the honor classes that you take, and then standardized test scores typically are within a certain range, depending on the different college. Of course, standardized test scores, a lot of schools are test optional again this next year. So if you pull those out of the mix, you've really got GPA and rigor of coursework that are pretty similar, and you're looking for a way to really distinguish yourself and to come across to the admissions officers as someone unique that they will remember. So how do you differentiate yourself? The college essay is definitely one of those things. Different colleges really put importance on different things, but the college essay really is one of the highlights no matter what kind of a college you're looking at. So if you're looking at liberal arts colleges, which really encourage students to study broadly, then typically factors such as like the essay and demonstrated interest are super important. Now, highly selective colleges, they attract thousands of really, really qualified applicants. And these colleges will look at your essay and maybe their interview will be a little bit more elevated and more important to that particular college. And then you have your big universities, your state colleges, where they may not even require an essay, and really it's just about your GPA, the rigor of your coursework, and that's it. So different colleges have different requirements. The essay, though, is definitely what sets you apart from one college to from one applicant to another. So there are a number of ways that you can apply to colleges. The Common App and the UC app are really the two that we find are used the most. So the Common App is over 900 colleges use the Common App. And for those students who've already had your second meeting with me, we've previewed, I've walked you through what the Common App looks like. And both private and out-of-state public colleges, a lot of them use the Common App. On that particular application, you put in all sorts of information about yourself. But regarding the essay, they have 7 questions, 7 prompts. And you have the option to choose one of those and write an essay. And that essay will go to every college that uses the Common App or that you're applying to using the Common App. There's a 650 word maximum. So the essay will, a good essay will be, 500 to 650 words. Now the UCs, they have, it's kind of like their own version of a Common App. So you fill out one application and you can send it out to any of the UCs that we have here in California. They have 8 prompts or 8 questions, and you choose 4 of those prompts and answer those questions. They're shorter essays, 350 words maximum. So that's the UC personal insight questions. There are other applications. There's a Coalition app or Apply Texas, which aren't quite as popular with our California students and with some of the colleges out there. So really the next kind of on our line of applications is the independent application. And that's just in pretty much what it says. The college has their own independent application. It's a little different from college to college. Some require essays, some don't. But if they do, their prompts are really similar or their questions are really similar to what the Common App has. Supplemental essays are essays in addition to that main Common App essay that colleges will ask. So you fill out the Common App, you write your essay. Say you have Gonzaga as a university. They have a couple other questions they want to ask you, typically short, about 150 to 300 words, 300 being on the larger side. Sometimes they say 5 to 10 sentences, pretty short, but it's really specific to the college, asking, what is it about our school that why do you want to come to our school? What is it about your major at our school that really lured you in? So they have very specific questions to their college. And usually there's 1 or 2 supplemental essays per private college. That doesn't usually apply to the public colleges. So that's sort of what the essays look like in the different applications. These are the different prompts or the different essay questions that are on the Common App. And these are for this year. So they've already been published. The first question, I'm just going to go over these quickly and give you just a little bit of something for each one of these questions. So the first one, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So this topic is probably the most open-ended from all of these questions because you can pretty much go any direction with it. It's asking about your background, your identity, your talent, your interests. So, but take note of the second part of the question though, because you have to believe that your application would be incomplete without it. So after you've written your draft, ask yourself whether the admissions officers could have evaluated your application just fine without knowing that information. If that's the case, then that's not the essay for you. And since you've already have all of your activities list on the Common App, you've written everything you've ever done, you have to make sure that that essay isn't a repeat of what you've already done. So question 2. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you? What did you learn from this experience? You have to be really careful when you answer this question about your greatest setback. Since a lot of these schools receive applications from students of all backgrounds, the definition of your challenge will vary greatly from the definition of a challenge of someone else. Admissions officers read essays from students who've been homeless, who've had debilitating illnesses, domestic violence, actual natural disasters. So if your definition of a challenge isn't quite at that level, you might want to consider a different topic. Not to say that you don't have a challenge, but if your biggest challenge is, getting the first C you've ever gotten in high school because you've been a straight A student, that's not really what would be considered a challenge. So you really have to think about that one. Prompt 3, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking and what was the outcome? So for this one, there's really no definition about how grand the idea you're challenging has to be. So if you have a really compelling story about, say, arranging a protest in your neighborhood and tried to change some authority's mind about something, that's awesome. That's a great topic. But even something maybe less tangible, such as changing your parents' mind on an important local or national idea or issue, that could also be spun into a powerful story about what drives you to act and what you're passionate about. So it doesn't have to be some grand thing. It could be something a little bit smaller. Just remember to answer the second and third question within the prompt. So don't spend all of your 650 words describing your idea. You need to talk about why you're passionate about the cause. So also think about, the outcome doesn't have to be a positive outcome. So you don't always have to succeed. You've made this, grand gesture, but it doesn't have to necessarily succeed. You can still frame your essay in such a way that it shows you're passionate and still passionate and committed to this cause. So that's prompt 3. Prompt 4, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way? How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? So this is a new prompt. They haven't had this. This is the first time they've done this year. As with most of these Common App prompts, this is less about the grandness of what someone might have done for you and more about getting to know what's important to you, right? And how you've been affected by a situation. The whole gist and the whole reason for these questions is they want to get to know you as a person, right? So how have you been affected, especially maybe during COVID and during these tough times? So the gratitude demonstrates your humility and your connection with others in your community. So really that's, they want to see who you are as a person here. So did a friend really help you when you were at your lowest? Has a teacher supported you through all of this? Focus less on what happened and dedicate more time toward discussing how you've carried this gratitude forward. So, and remember, all of these questions center around high school. So don't bring in stories about when you were a little kid. These need to be stories about who you are right now. So prompt 5, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and new understanding of yourself and others. So high school is 4 years. That's 4 long years. You went through a lot of experiences. Sometimes it isn't unheard of for someone to really feel like they've become a totally different person from freshman year through junior year. That's just a lot of growth. And this is the time, and this is the question where you can reflect on that. There's really not one way to interpret what the question asks. It could be a small personal growth. It could be you completely changing from, freshman to junior year. Could be small, could be large. But don't forget to highlight what you've understood through this experience and about how you've grown. They really like, the admissions officers really like to see students who demonstrate self-awareness. So that's where this is coming from. Prompt 6, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So if you got some sort of a niche interest or an interest that's unusual, tell the admissions officers about it. Once you've explained the topic in a sentence or two, use the rest of the essay to talk about how you act on your interest and share it, how you share it with others. The good thing about this prompt is that nothing is too small, nothing's too big or too small, and there's just really no right answer. It's what you think about and what you find interesting. Just be sure to explain it properly. And just why you're so intrigued by it. And you never know, you could intrigue an admissions officer, so they might just go, wow, that's so interesting. I never knew about that. So number 7, this is the share an essay at any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own designs. So just note that the first 6 questions really exist to give you sort of an idea of what you might write about, sort of an outline, right? You don't have to religiously stick to any of them because you have this number 7, right? That says you can write whatever you want. Interestingly enough, this is one of the most popular essay choices of them all. If you choose this option, make sure that the topic doesn't fall under one of the other 6 categories exactly, because they'll wonder why it is you chose this one if it really does fall under another one. So yes, you can write about anything. Just make sure it's a story that's unique to you. You should definitely not use your personal statement to write about your, best friend's story or your family's story. It really needs to be about you. So those are the 7 Common App prompts. Those are the ones that you can find that on commonapp.com. I also have it on our St. Vincent College Corner website. There are 8 UC personal insight questions. I'm not going to go into detail about each one. I will read through them. Each one of these is 350 words or less. And just like the Common App questions, these questions are about getting to know you better. Your life experiences, your interests, your ambitions, your inspirations. And it's meant to kind of be like an interview, right? Think of it as an interview with the admissions office. Be open, be reflective, find your voice. So in the meeting, in our second meeting with your students, or with you students that are on, I gave you a worksheet to help you brainstorm the personal insight questions. So I'm not going to go through each in detail. you can reflect back to that or refer back to that worksheet. So number one, describe an example of your leadership experience in which you've positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. Number two, every person has a creative side. It can be expressed in many ways: problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. Three, what would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? Number four, describe how you've taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or worked to overcome an educational barrier you faced. You'll see some of these overlap a little bit with Common App, so you might be able to take and modify an essay to go for both. Number five, describe the most significant challenge you faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? Think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you furthered this interest inside and or outside the classroom. Number seven, what have you done to make your school or community a better place? And number eight, beyond what's already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for admission to the University of California? So for those, you have to answer 4 out of the 8 for the UC application. Okay, enough about all the questions. Let's talk about some myths, some things that people think about that may not necessarily be true. Colleges want the well-rounded student. I've talked about this before. Some of you may have heard me, some of you may have missed it. They're not really looking so much for that well-rounded student. There's a new term, it's called angular. So rather than well-rounded, they like to see, generally they like to see students that have a little bit more of a focus. So it generally means it's more strategic to have a few key areas to focus on for both your academics and your extracurricular interests in high school, rather than just be the jack of all trades. In the admissions office, angularity, or being angular, makes an applicant a little bit more memorable. So you don't just have everything thrown at your application from all different sides. You actually have a little bit of direction, and that's what they're looking for. Second thing, the essay needs to tell my life story. Please don't tell your life story. They don't want to read your life story. They definitely don't want a repeat of your activities section and everything that you've done in high school, because they can already read that. Really, you're trying to sell yourself to the college, sell yourself, who you are on the inside. What's your passion? Ms. Ventilla is going to cover some of that later, but really, like, what is your passion? What makes you you? And that's what they want to hear. The other thing, I think that students just get so overwhelmed with trying to make this essay so perfect and so amazing that they forget that you just want to really answer that question. The essay doesn't have to be overly creative or overly thought-provoking. It just, you don't use a lot of metaphors and a lot of large words that you wouldn't typically use. It needs to cover the content in a clear way. And the admissions officers really are going to give it a 1 to 2 minute look. So you just kind of have to make it something that they'll enjoy reading without having to make them think about it, because they're reading thousands and thousands of these essays. So something that I've covered with some students and I've talked a little bit about, but we're really going to go into this today, is the application persona. Really, the application persona is almost like a theme or a tagline. It encompasses everything about your application, from your letters of rec to the tests you submit, like your AP testing, to your essay topic and how your activities are formatted. So rather than have a random selection of activities and essay topics and academic interests, every applicant should really have their own centralized theme that runs through their application. This goes back to focusing on a couple of things you're good at rather than being a jack of all trades, right? So if we look at these key components of an application persona, I will use, say, a persona of a performing artist who's interested in dance. Okay, so that's my persona. I am a performing artist. I want to get, and I would like to do dance in college. So that's my simple application persona. It's memorable in that this is going to run through my whole application. So my activities are going to be related to to dance, maybe some volunteer work. Um, so any of the classes that I've taken at school, so I've taken a lot of arts and drama and dance classes, uh, strategically, it's going to highlight what I'm good at. So I may not be a really great science person. So my grades in science may not be that great, but really what I'm selling is my artistic side and my performing arts and my dance side. So I'm not really trying to sell my science side. So it's really highlighting the things that I'm good at. And by being forward thinking, that college knows what I'm interested in and what I want to do. I didn't just slap a bunch of things on an application and send it their way and say, please pick me for your dancing, for your performing arts group. I really kind of worked my essay and my activities and everything else around that persona. So um, that's what we're looking for. And you're probably saying, well, I didn't think about that when I was doing, picking out my activities. And what if I don't have that persona? Well, you can take your activities and work them in such a way that it fits into your persona. So I'm going to pass this over to Ms. Ventilla. She's going to cover some generic application personas, but know that you can and should create your own persona. She's going to cover some generic ones that, yes, you can take and pull from and then kind of make them your own. It's really about who you are and what your passion is. It doesn't have to necessarily be a career goal. It just could be wrapped around your passion. So Ms. Ventilla, I'm going to pass this off to you.
Thank you. So the college essay is really a storytelling exercise. And I think that students often struggle between the two poles. Am I completely honest? Do I just share everything that's true? Or do I weave a fantastic tale that has no basis in reality? It shouldn't be either of those. It is, in fact, somewhere between those two. You are representing yourself. There needs to be a degree of honesty. There needs to be a degree of truth. You need to think about what persona is accurate to who you are. But you also need to tell a story. You also need to choose the details that are going to develop that character. You need to choose the sequence of events that are going to prove a point. So it is important that you find the balance between both selling who you truly are, but also creating a narrative that sheds the best light on who you are and presents you in the most favorable way. Because obviously the purpose of a college essay is to sell yourself, unfortunately. So when you think about the generic personas, this is absolutely not an exhaustive list. This is just a random selection of kind of generic types. You've got the athlete, the artist, the academic, somebody that has a professional interest like pre-med or nursing or technology or business. You have a cultural specificity, a minority identity aspect to you, or your cultural background or your belief system. So the generic persona that you should choose is the one not necessarily that resembles you the most, but the part that resembles the best part of you, the part that you want to grow, the part of you that you want to highlight, the part of you that you want to sell. And you want to say, this is something that I value in myself, and I want to come to your institution so that I can grow this persona. And so it's very important that you choose a generic persona to begin with that not only matches who you are in part, but also highlights who you want to become, who you want to grow into, who you want to sort of push forward into the college years. Because remember, it's a college essay is an introduction. It's saying, I am me, you are you, I'm meeting you, and I am suited for your environment. So there needs to be both a present, a past, as well as a future to that persona. So please choose a generic persona that is something you wish to sell about yourself in terms of your past achievements, but also somebody that you wish to grow in the institution that you're applying to, because it's important that you suit not only your actual transcript and your actual activities and your actual background, but also that you present a persona that they can do something with. They want to know that they can support you and scaffold your learning going forward. So think about your audience in that way when you choose your generic persona. Nicole, can we go to the next slide? Thank you. And one of the main mistakes that students make when they write their essays or when they brainstorm their essays is they start with the what. What am I? I'm an athlete. So when we say persona, you immediately think, okay, well, what am I? I'm a dancer, I'm an academic, or I'm an athlete, or I'm a mixed race in terms of my heritage. But the what you are, most of that has come through in your transcripts, in your activities lists, in where you come from, even things like your name. So I think that it's really important that you not lead with the what. In an essay, you should lead with the why. Why do you wake up in the morning? What is your passion? What is your interest? Why is this the persona you're choosing? Why is this the persona you want to grow? What is it that kind of burns that fire in your belly? And the most important aspect of your college essay is to explain to the admissions officers why you do what you do. What is your motivation? And then you proceed from that kind of motivational place to explain, well, how do you realize these passions? How do you realize these interests? How is it that you actualize the things that you're passionate about? And that's the process. How do you learn? Are you a forward thinking person? Are you a traditional person? Are you somebody that likes a kind of regimented way of doing things, or likes an open-ended way of doing things, or somebody that's really a social learner, or a kinesthetic learner? It doesn't matter what the process is by which you function, but the admissions officers, when they look at your transcript, they have no idea how you achieve the grades you achieved. They have no idea how it is that you manage to get onto various varsity teams. They just know that it's a what. They are an athlete, or they are an artist, but they want to know why you chose to do that. And they want to know how it is that you succeeded in that environment or in that pursuit. And so the what, which is the product, the actual things you've done, the actual grades, the actual interests, the actual contributions or successes in your life, they are important to bring up in your essay, but they are the third thing that you bring up. The most important is what motivates you, what drives you, what kind of brings you to the world. The second is how, once kind of you have the sort of taste in your mouth of something you want to do, how do you engage? How do you participate? How do you grow? How do you sort of deal with success or frustration? And then in the end, what kind of a person results from that way of interfacing with the world? So this is really important that you understand when you write your essay, that the why is something that the essay does exclusively. All the other components of your application don't do that as well as the essay does. This is the thing the essay does superbly, is give you an opportunity to express your motivation. It also is the place where you can best tell your story of how you do what you do. And the what is by far the least important. And it is in many ways the thing that all the other parts of your application provide. So don't reverse the order here. And when you choose your persona, maybe pick a persona that really demonstrates what makes you tick. Maybe describe a persona that really shows your learning style, or really shows a domain in your life where you have grown, because that kind of growth mindset is something that an institution can do something with, because they want to see that they can provide you with some kind of future trajectory. So this is the most important aspect, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of the backbone of how to pick your persona. Ms. Kruppel, can we go to the next one? Thank you. So if you think about that, and you look at these 5 traits that colleges are looking for, every essential question, every question they ask you is targeting a type of answer. So every essential question targets an essential knowledge. And if you look at these 5 traits, these are the things they want to know about you, because these are the things that will describe to them what kind of a student you would be in their institution. And if you look at this list, the very most important one is intellectual curiosity, because it is the one that speaks to your motivation. It is the one that talks about how you pick the things that you're going to engage in? What is the thing that really drives you, that pulls you, that entices you to engage? So that first point, intellectual curiosity, is really the most important thing you need to demonstrate in your college essay. Regardless of what question or persona you choose, you need to demonstrate that you have a pulse. You need to demonstrate that you wake up excited to take a bite out of the world and engage in life. That is something that a school needs to know, because you're going to spend 4 years in their institution and they want you to spend that time wisely. They want you to actually participate and have an appetite for what they have to offer you. So intellectual curiosity answers the why. Now come drive and initiative. These are the hows, right? These are, how do you get done what you get done? Well, are you ambitious? Are you somebody that's methodical? Are you somebody that, does what you're told? Are you somebody that, does what you enjoy, but not what you don't enjoy? They want to know your drive, and they want to know how you start something, what kind of initiative you take, how do you push yourself, because they want to know that you will thrive in their institution, that they won't have to hold your hand all the way through, and they want to know that you can actualize your passions. Contribution and diversity of experience are the what's. They are the result of your curiosity. They are the spoils of your drive and your initiative. They're what you give and what you get. You contribute to the activity you engage in, and you get from those activities a sort of broadening of your personality, your experience, and your knowledge of the world. So contribution, diversity of experience has to do with that give and take. What do you give the world, and what do you get from the world? So make sure, regardless of what persona you choose, make sure, regardless of what question you choose, that you always consider these 5 traits, because these are the things that, in all cases, will highlight you as a student worth teaching, so to speak, a student worth kind of inviting into their community, because they want you to get the most out of it. And that's actually what everyone thinks, that they're being judged when they apply to college, that, oh, they're checking whether I'm good enough or bad enough. And it's not quite that straightforward. It's much more, a school wants to accept students that they feel will most benefit from what they have to offer. And these are the traits by which they evaluate that. Can we go on to the next slide? Thank you. So again, when you pick an essential question, when you pick an essay prompt, pick one that you think is best suited to you. If you're somebody that leads with passion, then pick one that's a why question, that's a why heavy question. If you're somebody that's really good at closing, at kind of finishing a task and carrying something through, but maybe not the first person to get excited by something, then pick a how question. And if you're somebody that really gets a lot out of the things they do and gives a lot to the communities and to the activities that you engage in, then pick one that's more of a what type of a question. And again, each of the questions that Ms. Kropelnicki read through is a little bit more geared towards one or another of these 5 traits, and is geared more towards probing that side of you. So even though I said generically the why is the most important, the how is the second most important, and the what is the third most important, certain questions prioritize one over the other. So pick one that you feel is kind of the strongest way that you engage in activities. And we all differ in this way. We're all unique learners. And so you need to think about that this summer. How do I kind of get through the cycle of learning? Am I somebody that just ignites, or am I somebody that just works through it? Or am I somebody that just gets a tremendous amount out of it? And those are different kinds of approaches to interfacing with the world. So again, just to think about it. And this is the same thing. This is just showing you kind of a sample set of those questions, those essential questions, and showing you which essential knowledges they most closely target, so that you can have this metacognitive exercise for yourself, and try to pick a question that doesn't just at face value seem like, oh, that would be more fun to write about or less fun to write about, or I have something really neat to think about, but one that really speaks strongly to your strength as a learner, your strength as a person that engages with the world, and tries to give them that element of yourself that they are targeting with the question that they're asking. Next slide, please. Thank you. So a couple just basic, once you've chosen your persona, and once you have figured out what your why and your how and your what are, and you have singled out the prompt or the essential question that you think best suits the essential knowledge that you want to accentuate, those are really the first 3 steps, and they should be in that order. So you really should start with your persona, and then you should move on to your why, your how, and your what. And then you should proceed to scan through the questions and find that question that you feel highlights or targets the knowledge that you most want to share. Now you have to start to kind of write your paper. Unfortunately, you have to write that essay. I know it's a drag. I'm sorry that you need to do it. So given that you do, most importantly, you must answer the prompt. So don't pick a question that you don't want to answer. Don't pick a question that you only want to answer half of. Don't pick a question that absolutely bores you to death. There's no reason. There are plenty of options. There's even the make up your own option. So please pick a question that you want to spend the time on. You're going to spend your summer on this. You're going to spend all of your first semester with me on this. You're going to spend a lot of time on these essays. So pick something to begin with that you want to pick. So pick a prompt and really answer it. Look at every part, underline it, cut it up, paste it all over your room. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that you know that prompt backwards and forwards. Many prompts have several questions in them. Try to answer all of the questions. They have written these prompts very methodically. So if they put something into that prompt, don't just think that it's, it's real. They really want you to answer it. So answer all parts. Second, be direct. They are going to give you 5 minutes, if even that much, to read your essay. I know it's terrible. We spend all this time writing them, and then they spend so little time reading them. So be direct. Don't be opaque. Don't be mysterious. Don't make them work too hard, right? Be straightforward. Be clear. Use a conversational tone. Now, what does this mean? Ms. Kropelnicki explained that the myth, be creative. It doesn't mean you can't be creative, but it means that you should be yourself. You should use a tone that feels natural to you and is the best version of yourself, meaning, not you, sleepy, half paying attention, kind of throwing words around, but you when you get dressed up for an interview and you really mean it. So use a tone that feels appropriate to you. Use a tone that feels natural. Use words that are natural to you, because the admissions officers can smell a lie. They know when you're putting on airs. They know when your mother wrote it. They know when your English teacher wrote it. So please use a conversational tone that is believable, that is you. In terms of your introductory sentences, short and crisp, draw in the reader, provide a sense of where the essay is headed. This is just common sense. You've got to have a hook. You've got to have something that just kind of invites the reader to read it, so they know that they're spending time with you and your essay, and they've transitioned from wherever else they were prior to picking up your essay. Don't use too much descriptive language. When I say it's a storytelling exercise, it's a storytelling exercise insofar as you are developing a character that is you, but it's not a storytelling exercise in the way that you need to describe the tone and ambiance of the room that you've walked into and describe every little piece of, decor that surrounds you. You don't have enough word count for that. So you really need to only describe and spend time and spend words on the details that are going to further your character development. Don't use fancy vocabulary words. This doesn't mean that I'm not going to suggest more highfalutin vocabulary when I edit your papers, but don't be pretentious. Use words you actually know, because if you don't know those words, if you've looked them up, if you've used an online thesaurus, it's going to feel fake. It's going to feel false, and it's not going to read in an authentic way. So don't use words that you don't actually know or you wouldn't actually use. And then the last thing is the superlative adjectives. Great, amazing, things that don't actually specify the thing you're talking about, that just are fluff words. Use descriptive adjectives that actually enhance the meaning of what you're trying to say, because these are the things that are going to make your essay unique from another person's essay. Superlatives are something that everyone uses and that don't actually mean much, especially not in an essay of this brevity. Next slide, please. So my final kind of parting comments are that these essays are really tough. They suck. I have to tell you that it's a drag. I've been through it. All of us that are going to support you through this process, it wasn't fun for any of us. So we feel your pain, and they're hard, and they take a lot of time, but they also are the way to the next 4 years of your life. So they're worth spending the effort on. They can really open your world. They can really change the path that your life takes if you get into a school that is able to support your growth in a way that is a match. That's a really special thing. And so spend the time on it. Spend your summer working on it. And again, you don't need it to be perfect. It doesn't have to be totally creative or philosophically profound. I will help you in the first semester of school to fatoops your essay, to kind of bring it up to a level of sophistication, but you need to figure out who you're selling. I don't know you the first day of school. You come in as a stranger to me. And so that part of the essay writing you really need to do over the summer, and you really need to figure out who you are. And you need to figure out what you're selling, and you need to figure out what you want to do with yourself in the future so that you can identify what your passion is and how you actualize that passion. So again, it's a test of sorts, but it's a good kind of a test if you approach it with the right attitude. Definitely don't procrastinate. I cannot articulate enough how much is gained by multiple passes, how much is gained by going through the process and doing it over a period of time, multiple edits, multiple versions of it. Just get started. And if you write an absolutely terrible piece the first time, well, it's only going to get better the next time. This is the beauty of not procrastinating, is you can just get better, and that there's time enough to kind of make your essay develop into a representative piece of who you are. So please don't procrastinate. Spend your summer really asking these hard questions so that I can then help you write a better essay in your senior fall semester. But I don't know who you are. So that's really on you. So get that work done this summer. Getting feedback is critical. It's critical because these are hard questions. It's important to talk about these things with your friends, with your family, with your teachers, your coaches, whoever it may be that you talk about these things, but be smart about who you get it from. Try to get advice from people that might not always tell you you're awesome and great. It might be useful to have someone give you a negative critique so that you can see where your shortcomings are. Better to hear it from somebody that loves you than an admissions officer that just tosses the essay to the side. So better to have some of that tough love early on in the process rather than towards the end of the process. And focus on describing your persona and remember your audience. The essay is your introduction. This is the document that really says, I am me, hello, I want to be part of you. And that is something that you have to understand the purpose of this essay. It's an introduction, and it's an introduction that's of two parts. It's, this is who I am, and I know who you are, and I am a match. It has a functional element to it. It's not just, I am who I am, and I don't care what you think. And it's not just, oh my God, I'm completely interested in your college. I know everything about your college. You're just the most wonderful college in the world. They know who they are. It's a, I am me, I know who you are, and let's meet. Let's do something. Let's be compatible, and let's make the next 4 years a partnership. So remember that is the purpose of your essay. Next slide, please. And I think at this point, Ms. Kropelnik,
you pass it over to me. So I am part of that whole, I like to have a plan. I like to make sure you guys are on task. So this is our plan. So Ms. Vintila did a great job of describing what it is that you're going to have to think pretty hard about this summer and pull together and hand over to her on the first day of senior English class. So that is your assignment over the summer, is to pick one of the Common App prompts and to write that over the summer. If you know for a fact that you are only applying to UCs, I, for one, will say, please apply to more than just the UCs. But if you think that none of the other colleges that you're applying to outside of the UCs require an essay, then writing the UC prompts, those 4 out of 8 would also be appropriate. Ms. Ventilla, are you okay with that? Or are you thinking just the Common App?
I think it really depends on the selection of colleges that a student is looking at.
Yeah. So if you are not going to write a Common App essay, I'd like you to run that by me first. Let's have that conversation. But this, again, will be your first assignment. So spend some time over the summer. I do have, okay, so this second bullet point that says writing a Common App essay should take 6 to 8 hours of a student's time over 2 weeks. That's what one person suggested. Ms. Ventilla disagrees with that. But that's the writing portion of it, in my opinion, not the thinking about it, not the brainstorming, not the all of that. This was the writing of the draft, but she's the English teacher. I am not. So it's going to take as long as it takes for you to get it done. But I do think maybe you set your time and you set some dedicated time to actually work on it and not just keep thinking about it and procrastinating it. So supplemental essays, a separate from your main essay. So your main essay is what we've talked about today. The supplemental essays are those extra small little essays that some of these colleges are asking in addition to your main essay. If you already know the colleges that you're applying to, draft these over the summer. And we are going to assign every student to a mentor teacher, a current St. Vincent teacher, a mentor teacher that will work with you on supplemental essays. Ms. Ventilla can't do everyone's Common App essay and all their supplemental essays. It's way too much for one teacher to handle. So we've got a group of teachers that are going to work with you, and you'll have your own specific teacher that you will work with on your supplemental essays. And that teacher will be assigned to you in the beginning of your senior year. And then we're at the end. So before I open it up for questions, I wanted to tell you that on svhscollegecorner.org, which is the website that we have for college counseling at St. Vincent's, all of the Common App prompts are listed on there. There's a link to the Common App. There's a link to the UC app. There's information on college essays, that there's a whole section on that. So make sure that you look at that. And then I will be sending out the video to this, a link to the video to this presentation, as well as the slides, so that you can have an actual version of the questions and the things that were written on there. And at this point, I'd like to open it up to see if anybody has any questions. Everybody's scared to ask a question, perhaps overwhelmed by the amount of work that that the college essay is. Anybody have anything to say?
I want to speak a little bit to the feeling of being overwhelmed by how much work the college essay is. The college essays that have taken the most work, in my experience, are the ones that kids write with no preliminary thought. If you spend the time really asking those questions of yourselves that we presented this evening, and you really spend the summer analyzing truthfully who you are and what you want to say, those often are the essays that write themselves. Those often are the essays where I only have to go through 1 or 2 drafts before they're nailed down to a place where they can be sent out. The essays that tend to take an inordinate amount of time are the ones where students haven't really been honest with themselves, and they haven't done that soul searching. And this is where you parents and families can really be a help to your student. You cannot write their essay for them. You cannot be them. You shouldn't be them. You've had your opportunity to live. This is their opportunity to live. But you can help them do some of this soul searching. And the more understanding of self that you have going into this process, the easier it is to actually write that essay. So I really would recommend that you spend that time this summer because it will save you hours and hours and hours of messy writing, and lots of kind of doing things backwards and untangling unnecessary, sort of ineffective ways of saying what you don't know what you want to say. So that's really where you lose the time. So spend the time knowing yourself. That's by far the best way to spend the time. That would be my advice.
There is a question. Are the essay questions the same for every college and for the UCs? So the Common App essays, so the 7 prompts that I had for the Common App, you write one essay and it goes out to every college that uses the Common App. So you don't have to write a separate essay for every college. However, the Common App is a different application than the UC application. So the UC application, you write 4 essays out of the 8 shorter essays, and those 4 would go to every UC that you would apply to. So the UC application is almost like a Common App just for the UCs. You fill out all the information and then you tag various UCs that you want to apply to, and they would all receive the same essay. So you don't have to write a separate one for each UC or a separate one for every Common App school. So it would be one Common App essay and then the 4 essays for the UCs. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you all for spending your evening with us. I think we are hit right around the 1 hour mark. I think we did good, Ms. Ventilla. Again, this will be recorded. It is recorded. I will get this up and I will get this sent out to all of you and to everybody else that was not able to be here. So thank you.